Well, you have a front row seat to a live performance that is potentially going to change your life. And it's going to happen today, right here. How does it change your life? It's all about energy healing, specifically about sound healing. And she plays with an intention to get a goal. And whatever the intention is, we look at that goal. And that's where the magic happens. And she does this for people all the time in groups and even individually, and she's back with us. It's Barb Sounds, and she's on the program. Hey, Barb, how are you?
I'm good, Steve. How are you?
Fantastic. We
Good.
do, we've done this a number of times where you set an intention and you play. And well, even before we get into how this all works, what's your intention today?
Well, my intention today is to play with sorrow and joy. Those are very opposite feelings, but we tend to, and the frequencies are different, right? Sorrow is going to have a fairly low frequency. And,
Hmm.
you know, joy, as we know, has got the really high one. Joy is even actually higher frequency than love.
Is it really?
Yeah. And when I was thinking about it when it was coming to me this morning, I remembered that Khalil Gibran, the poet, said in his book, The Prophet, that joy and sorrow came from the same well, they came from the same vessel. And as much as you fill up your vessel with sorrow, so that much joy you can have.
Give me that again, because that sounds like it's super important for us to be mindful of.
Mm-hmm. So he said, and I'm paraphrasing him, but he said that your sorrow and your joy come from the self same well. They come from the same place.
Gotcha.
And that, and that I interpret that's your heart, right? But he said they come from the same place. And so as much as your vessel fills up with sorrow, so you have that much room for joy. So if you only have a little bit of sorrow, you can't feel great joy. If you have a little bit of joy, then feeling great sorrow is hard.
So it's almost like
Now
it's
that's a
about
little tricky.
it's
Yeah.
almost like it's a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I think that, and our feelings are in our heart. So I think that, and our heart actually produces way more frequencies per second than our brain does, than our mind.
Wow.
Yeah. And so all of our feelings, that's where they reside, is in our heart center, and they're always there. We, again, the same as, last week, we can't get rid of fear. We can't get rid of sorrow. We can't get rid of joy either, but we can kind of shove joy off to the side. When there's lots
Hmm.
of sorrow happening, we don't try to kind of feel both of them at the same time, or know that they're both there, or, give as much space to joy as we give to sorrow.
So let's say you're dealing with a fair amount of sorrow.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, you want joy in your life. Most of us would.
Yep.
How can you experience more joy, or do you have the capacity to based on what you just said?
You do have the capacity to, based on, if you believe what Khalil Gibran said, which I do, then because it's a kind of, it fits into the energy concept. So if you are in a lot of sorrow, so when I was in my cancer treatment, that's like sorrow gazillion times multiplied, right?
Sure.
And it was very hard going, but I had moments in there of such great joy, of greater joy than I'd ever felt in my life. And it
Do
was just from little things,
okay.
like
Well, I'm glad you
looking
said
out
that.
the window and seeing the sunshine, like, watching my dog run around and play with her toys. Like those things, when you're just in sorrow,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
If you stay aware, right, and if you've practiced feeling joy, I think that we actually, we don't have a lot of joy in our world and in our society, right? And so it doesn't even matter what kind of family you grow up in. We're surrounded by all the other stuff, fear and anger, but sorrow is a big one. Like when who doesn't feel sorrow for the world? for other people,
Sure.
so we just kind of fall into that, like sorrow's the big thing and it's just all encompassing, and we forget that as much as we can feel sorrow, we can also feel joy, and it doesn't take as much. We need big bad things to make us feel sorrowful sometimes, but I mean, if you're in your heart and you're feeling a lot, you can feel sorrow for little things, like you can see a little dead birdie that fell out of a nest, that happens in my driveway sometimes. And then I feel like a little bit of sorrow for that little bird, but it's not a huge encompassing thing. But the same thing, I saw a cardinal on the top of the tree the other day, and I was like totally delighted. Like I felt so joyful. And that wouldn't have happened to me in my life before cancer.
It's almost what I'm getting here from you is the comparison of one to another and the perspective. So you're going through a very sorrow-filled time, a lot of
Mm,
negativity, and then you
yeah.
see something that's positive. But that little thing that's positive is now massively amplified because of the state that you're in, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if you were experiencing a lot of joy, you might not miss those little joyful things pop up because you're already there. Not a bad thing, maybe not a good thing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Um, I've heard this term used before, and I think it's a viral thing now. Glimmer, and we've often heard
Right.
glimmer of hope, but they call them
Mm-hmm.
glimmers. Well,
Yep.
I had a little glimmer today, and what is that? I saw a bird, made me happy. That's a glimmer. It's just a
Mm-hmm.
life is this. Sometimes life is this, but you're floating here. Bing, get one positive thing. Bing, another one popped up.
I think it's also partly I really like that term. I've seen it glimmer, and I'm so glad that whoever thought of it. But I think it's also a difference between how our mind thinks and how our heart feels, right? So
Hmm.
if you're not spending very much time in your heart feeling things, because lots of times that's not that fun, you know, then when you see something, you don't really see something good or bad, something sorrowful, something joyful, you don't have a whole lot of, connection with your heart. I mean, joy and sorrow are in your heart, but you're not connected to them. So we get
Right.
disconnected. It's not that we don't have it, but I think it is also true that exponentially, however much you can feel sorrow, then so too you start to be able to feel joy, because sorrow opens your heart, right? Wide open, and you can't get it closed again if you're in, big trauma like cancer treatment. You're stuck with it for like quite a while,
Yeah.
but it keeps your heart expanded, and then you can take advantage of those little bits of joy, which then you can kind of feel much larger.
I'm curious what today's going to sound like and what we're going to
Me
feel.
too.
Um,
Me too.
yeah. So we're playing for sorrow and joy at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, let's do it. And because I never want to
Okay.
run out of time, so we can talk afterwards.
All right. I'm going to turn my sound on and switch to my studio view. There we go.
And that is your studio. You're making your way over
Okay.
there.
So, for everyone listening now and everyone listening in future, um, in the future, let's just take 3 deep breaths before we start in and out. And with the first breath, when you breathe out, start to feel your body relaxing, all tension and stress in your body relaxing. And with the second breath, feel all of your thoughts just kind of floating away. And with the third breath, feel your feelings just kind of gently falling away. And now when you close your eyes, you'll see in front of you a beautiful golden door, a white gold door, and that is the door to your heart center. So reach out now and open that door and enter your own heart center. It's a big, beautiful room. And one of the first things you meet, oftentimes in your heart center, is sorrow. Sorrow is big, and sorrow is trying to take up all of the room. And sorrow is a part of your heart center, but not everything. And over on the other side of the room, looking out the window, sitting quietly, is joy. Joy is always there, even though you mostly see sorrow. Joy doesn't really care if you see it or not, but if you go over to the window and sit down with joy, then you'll have joy and sorrow in your heart center.
Hmm. I'm trying to distinguish if there's a difference between the two in terms of you playing and applying it to sorrow and joy.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
And what do you mean difference between the two?
oh, got to flip your mic on.
It's not on. Oh, I didn't take my sound off. Okay, there we
There we
go.
go. There we go.
Yeah.
If there's a difference, if I could detect, oh wait, that felt more for sorrow, that felt more for joy. Would it depend on what you're going through at the moment?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it would depend. And it would also depend on how familiar you are with your heart and your feelings.
Hmm.
Um, in particular, those two feelings.
I would say my personal thought is I was feeling more joy during the playing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think I need more of that in my life. So
Hmm,
I'm wondering if
cool.
it's like if I'm looking at it that way, that oh, okay, like the energy goes where it needs to go. Well, my intent is give me some more joy. It's been a
Yeah.
rough week.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I wonder if that's what's going to happen. If you're thinking it, you set the intention to play, people listening set the intention to receive whatever it may be,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
And I think it depends on what you're most familiar with also. So I think the sounds of the gongs, it wasn't like it's not linear. So it wasn't like any one gong was playing, you know, sounds of joy
Hmm.
and another gong was playing sounds of sorrow.
Sure.
So it's what you hear in those sounds, right?
Right. Right.
So, if somebody's stuck in sorrow, it's still healing because even if they're hearing it more as sorrowful, then that's helping them to process, right? That's helping them just to feel what it is that they have to feel in their life at that point in time.
Mm.
If somebody's kind of okay with the sorrow and not as experienced with joy, because, I think we both agree, like all of us could do with more joy in our life, right? And we don't deliberately try to do that, and I think we have to when we're surrounded in a world that is full of chaos and all. There's a gazillion. I mean, how easy is it to think of something to be sorrowful about? Boom. Like, just look around at what's
Mm.
happening in the world.
Hmm.
Just look
Well,
around your neighborhood, right? But how easy is it to think of something that makes you feel joy? That's harder.
for sure. And because I truly believe that we're bred to be negative. From the
Yeah.
moment you're a baby, um, you you walk up to the dining room table. You're 2 years old. To finally learn how to walk. I go up to the table. I reach for the salt shaker. Mom or dad says, "Bob, Bob, no, put that back." No, 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 no. Well, that's kind of negative. You're just trying to explore and look. And,
Yeah.
and nothing against parents. I did the same thing because you don't want to clean up all the salt. You don't want the baby getting the salt in the ties, whatever. But
Yeah.
it's a negative, and there's a lot of negative in our upbringing, just the way it is,
Yeah.
and then we gravitate toward that. But I do
Yeah.
want people to know that it's not like what you just played, not to expect happy songs here and sorrow songs here. That's not the intent.
No, it's all, yeah, and it's not like, it's not like you can listen to someone playing the piano and saying, "Oh, they just played a G chord," you know,
Right.
like it's not. So everybody's going to feel differently when they hear it. But I think one of the things that the gongs were teaching in that particular in this particular playing today, for me anyway, is that joy and sorrow are in that room, like in that room of your heart. Joy and sorrow are in there together, and neither one of them's going away. So you get to choose, like when you go through the door into your heart, you get to choose, right? And you don't have to choose one over the other either. Like, I had this image when I woke up this morning of walking into the room of my heart and reaching out and taking the hand of sorrow in one hand and taking the hand of joy in the other.
Hmm.
And then you just have both of them. Right. And sometimes you can look at this one and sometimes you can look at that one. And sometimes you can feel both of them at the same time.
Fair enough. Fair enough. But I guess we need to look at it this way. You can't feel one without the other. Like, for example,
Yeah.
if you've never felt sorrow,
Yeah.
you'd never feel joy.
And that's what Khalil Gibran was, I think, trying to say, right? So if you pay attention to what you're feeling, if you're feeling a lot of, and I think conversely too, if you feel a lot of joy, then that allows you to feel a lot of sorrow when something happens. It's not
Well,
just like it's not a good and bad thing, right? It's a more of a high frequency, low frequency.
yeah. And it's like we said before, I really think the energy goes where it needs to go. So if you're and it's all about the intent. If you're intending to receive, I mean, who wants to receive sorrow? Um, but maybe hearing something there, the vibration made you think of something, and maybe you're having a great day, and then you thought of something, that maybe was a little down in vibration. So you might be thinking about somebody or something like that. Maybe, whatever. The energy gets in and you do with it whatever you need to do with it. You say you set the intention. I do believe we set the intention to receive it. If somebody is not open to receiving it, let's say, yeah, what's going on? I can't focus. Somebody's listening right now and they've got 5 different screens open. And they're like, well, that's really cool. That's interesting over there. Barb is playing something. All right. You're not setting the intention to receive the energy as you're playing it. You have to be focused on
Well,
it.
you get much more out of it
Sure.
if you're just listening to that and you're not distracted. But our mind distracts us all the time. So it's very hard to go, it's very hard to go into your heart center and feel like a deep emotion.
Yeah.
Like a deep feeling, such as either joy or sorrow, because your mind is getting in the way. Your mind's like, we don't have time for this, right?
Yeah.
I got those 5 things over there and I got 10 more over there and something crappy just happened to me. And I'm waiting for the joy part. So like, what's going on? Like that's what your mind does.
Yeah.
And you just have to, it's just better to, close your eyes and listen without any kind of preconceived notion, because we don't decide where the energy is going to go.
Well, I'm gratified knowing that and joyful knowing that more and more people are picking up on this thing called sound healing.
Mm-hmm.
Every week I talk to more people that it's on their radar. They've heard of it. Maybe they're wondering about it. Maybe they know exactly what it is, but they're more open to learning about it. And I think that's really cool.
Yeah, me too. Me
Yeah.
too. We cannot have too many sound healers in the world right now.
Yeah. And for
The
anybody
more
who
the
think
better.
if you think this is just there's that thing called music. And when you hear certain music, you feel a certain way, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's not just because you like it, it's because it does something to you energetically. You might not be aware of it, but it is. Maybe the lyrics do. Maybe the way the singer sang the lyrics. Maybe it was the energy that the singer put into
Mm-hmm.
the way they're singing, because
Yep.
the energy knows no time and space and can be transferred that way. It's all there, So,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's your example. Go listen to a song, and what do you feel from it? You'll
Yeah,
feel
though I think
something.
we get patterns from songs. Like if our song, for us, I think songs get attached to what's happening in your life at the time when you're hearing that song.
Sure.
You know how you can hear a song from like 20 years ago and you're like right back where you were
Hmm.
20 years ago. And I think the sounds in energy healing and sound healing are different. So you could listen to me playing when I played today, tomorrow, and you'll feel differently.
100%.
It won't
Because
take you
it's
back to the same place. You'll feel differently because again, those sounds are going
Mhm.
where they're supposed to be. So I'm playing for certain intention that augments the ability of the sounds and the energy to go, where somebody needs it, if that's what they need. But somebody could be listening to that sound bath and it doesn't even really matter that my intention was, to play for joy and sorrow, because the energy and the sounds of the gongs could very well just go to, healing the physical pain in their back.
Is it possible that somebody could get something totally different? You played for sorrow and joy, um, and somebody receives the energy as totally different emotion.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Or something, or it's something physical in their body, right?
Mm.
Or it's something spiritual. I mean, people, when I first started doing group sound baths, I encouraged people to share afterwards about, what happened to them. And people had all kinds of, some people saw colors, some people heard words, some people saw, like, people they loved that were no longer here, and some people saw like pictures, and and some people just conked right out and didn't even hear half the sounds,
Mm.
but they feel better and they sleep better.
That's what it's about.
Yep.
we're we're out of time. They're going to cut us off.
Okay.
How do we find you if we want to book a session? I know you do a free 30-minute call it a trial, of a sound bath. How do we find you?
Yep, that's on heal.me/Barb Sounds. That's my booking site at the moment. If you want to join a group, which is a little, well, you get a free either free 30-minute through heal.me, or you can join one of my groups and you'll get the first group session free. And
Awesome.
that's at barbsounds.eventbrite.ca. There's tickets for my groups.
Yep. Super cool. Every time we talk, I learn more. I really
Yeah,
do
me too.
about
It is fun.
the whole way this works.
Yeah.
Thank you for today, and we'll talk soon. Okay.